How's it going, guys? Welcome to Audio Addiction. We have Silent Drive with us tonight. I think he can say his name and what he does in the band.
Hey, this is Pete Chilton. I play bass for Silent Drive.
There we go. Well, Pete, thank you for coming on. From what I've seen online, I feel like you guys are, you have been around for quite a bit, and this is like a resurgence. So I appreciate you for taking the time to come on and do this. I want to say that I had not heard of your band prior to this, and I went and listened to a lot of the stuff on Equal Vision. And for you guys, specifically because you guys have been active since 2003, and you have a new album that just released. How does that feel to kind of come like out and do music again? Because I feel like you guys took like from what I could read online, you guys took a long break in between albums, and now you're back doing it all over again. So that's awesome.
Yeah, it's a lot different now. Our first record came out in 2004, and then the second record came out in 22. So about 18 years between records, and a lot has changed. So that was the one thing that we really noticed, like when we first recorded the first, which is called "Love Is Worth It" in 2004. That's sort of when everyone in the band is a little older. We've been doing this for a while. I grew up in the scene. I graduated high school in '95, and then was in the scene then doing hardcore stuff, and I played bass in Bane, and sort of was thick into it. And there was a system that like you'd record and then you'd tour, and the CD come out or get printed and all that stuff. And now coming to it much later, after taking a long, I personally sort of left doing music in like 2008.
Okay.
And so I was like in the adult world, adulting, married with a house and a job, and then sort of came back and recorded this in January 2022, and basically everything's changed. I mean, the recording process is so nice now. It's so easy. Computer tracks and just like being able to try different things and be able to edit.
Oh, yeah.
It's really interesting. And then the process of putting out a record. I'm also graphic design, so I did the first layout. I did a lot of paint, so I have that background of like knowing like, okay, this happens and this happens, and there's like a long lead up process to when the record actually comes out. And nowadays it's like you just need a square image, and then
That's true.
like you don't have to have any like print specs. Obviously the vinyl will have a layout, but vinyl's so slow to come out that we had months and months to prepare for that.
Sure.
And then the label said, hey, if we can have like between the time it's recorded and when it comes out, like they need like a month maximum. And our first record, I think it was like when they record, and then we'll do the CDs and the promos, and they have to leave months for printing all that stuff and ship everything. And of course, none of that exists anymore. And just upload it, and you're basically done. So, and then with videos, like everything is promoted through video these days. So, we've never done a video, even with Bane, who had like a much more prolific career than Silent Drive. Never did one. So that was new. And doing a video when you're in your 40s and having the same song over and over and over again, it was a really interesting experience, and something totally different than when we put our record when I was in my early 20s. So.
It's
cool.
It is crazy to me too, because as someone who I feel like I've been in the scene for a long time, like I started really getting into like post-hardcore and like the metal scene in my like late teens, like early 20s, and that was far beyond the existence of Silent Drive. But or far before after actually. And so for me, when I looked up your Wikipedia and I have it pulled up now, it was like they released an album in 2004. I was like, that's so wild to me because as like a fan currently, it's like I think about all the changes that has happened in like the past 2 decades of me listening to this music or something like that. So I can imagine for you, it's even more of a surprise and more of a, I would argue, a little bit of a challenge to, try to come out and to listen to, different things and how the way that I guess albums are put together and how they're like structured out are, I would imagine, are vastly different than, 2004, like early 2000s certainly. And so that was something that when I was approached to interview you, that was something that was like ringing in my head, was like, I can't even imagine, trying to do something now as being like, in the, you know, doing a band now in your like mid 40s, because I feel like for myself, like I can't even imagine doing this interviewing thing in my mid 40s. I mean, I feel like it would be a little bit more of an easier go at it, certainly, but um it's kind of crazy in that aspect. So I'm glad you guys are, you know, but I'm glad you guys put out a new album because I listened to a couple songs off of it. More specifically, I watched the music video of Dearly Beloved, and I was like, how did I miss this band? And I think for me, it's cool because like it's some, I think for me, it's like I love the like anthology bands, the bands that have like I would imagine influenced other bands that I currently listen to. And so to me, it's just like that the era of post-hardcore is great. And I feel like I need to do my homework as a, as a person that's been in the scene for a while to kind of go back and listen to some of these artists, because I feel like they influence what I currently listen to. So I feel like I'll find enjoyment out of it, certainly. Do you feel like with people who have checked it out, whether they be like have been fans since like the early 2000s, or you've, accumulated new fans, how has the kind of reaction been for, people who have been long-standing fans versus like people who are like, oh my god, I just found out about you released a sick music video, like I didn't know this band existed,
Right.
so I'm sure it must be interesting for you, Pete.
Yeah, it definitely is. I love the new fans. This record really, like, we tried to do it a lot of times. Half of it was written in a timely fashion. So in
Hmm.
2004, the first record came out, and then we toured a bunch, and then we did the regular stuff, and then it just sort of like our other parts of our lives got busy, and we never really broke up. We just like our drummer lives in Vermont, and it was like it just kind of like it was just easier to not do it than to do
Fair
it.
enough,
So
yeah.
so it just sort of went away, and that was it. And but we had started writing our new record, and we had 4 or 5 songs from that, and we had demoed them, and the recordings weren't that great. They were just for a notebook basically.
Hmm.
And years and years go by, and you're like, I really wish that we recorded those well. I really wish that those could get out there.
Sure, yeah.
And so we started talking about that. Like, let's at least just put this stuff out that was written all those years ago, and we'll go through it. We'll pick and choose like what we still think makes sense, and we'll try to record it. So that's how the conversation started. And then the pandemic sort of allowed us to sort of sit on it and like talk to each other about it a little bit
Sure,
more.
yeah.
And now that technology is like really good, we all have computers that we can do our separate things um, and sort of put them together on a computer. Nick, the guitar player, is like a prolific writer and a really good engineer and studio person. So he's sort of our go-to, and he sort of pushes stuff around. But it's just sort of evolved from that sort of 4 or 5 song demo that we wanted to just record, and then we're like, well, if we're going to do 4 or 5 songs, we might as well do 8 songs, and then that sort of turned into a couple more, and we just sort of like going back through our sort of demo recordings
Hmm.
of stuff around that time period, and from 2007 2008, where we sort of went on hiatus. to now, and we sort of made a list of the ones that we liked and how we might react to those. And I remember having a little jam session with Nick, the guitar player, and Zach, the singer, in Nick's basement, in his studio basement. And we sort of just went through a couple things, and Zach just overlaid his vocal ideas over 3 or 4 songs that we had just like, it was just a guitar riff and drums. And we're like, oh, that's really cool. Like, okay, that's we got to record that. Like, let's figure out that, or and that just happened a bunch of times. And then all of a sudden we had 11 or 12 songs, and we're like, well, I guess we're going to do a full length. So it is a lot of like older stuff that's on there that we just felt like was still good enough to put out, that we felt like we had written but didn't finish by recording properly. And then sort of just in that discussion, so all this other stuff bubbled to the surface. And then we called EVR and said, hey, we think we got a record here. Do you want to put it out? And they're like, yeah, of course, we want to put it out. And they've always been awesome to us. And we called our friend Jay Moss, and we said, hey, we don't have a lot of money, but can you record this? And he's like, yeah, of course, let's do it.
Oh,
so
that's awesome.
It kind of all came together at the right moment. And like you were saying, it's a lot different to do it now, but it's also sort of the same. And as far as the fans go, we sort of owed the fans, because we kept saying over and over again, like,
oh wow,
we're working on a new record. And then like 2 years would go by and we're like, yeah, we're gonna work on a new record, and like 2 more years,
oh
so
man, yeah.
it was a long sort of lead up to a lot of disappointment, and then finally some satisfaction for the fans. And then as far like a lot of the fans like really love Is Worth It. And we always hear from people saying, I still listen to that all the time. And then a lot of people discovered us through we had a song on the Burnout 3 soundtrack.
Yes.
And we didn't even realize how popular that was until years later, when you can see the stats and stuff like that on Spotify, and that song gets played exponentially more than the others, because it's on all these playlists that are like video game focused. So but yeah, I mean, it's a different world for us. It's we're not going to be a touring band, but we're hoping to play some shows here and there, maybe some long weekends.
Nice. Okay.
But because we're older, we all have families and young kids. It's not going to be some like juggernaut that we might have been back in 2004, because we did do quite a bit of touring that year and the year after. So I don't know, it's just a different feel. It's just like much more casual. It's like, oh, we can do a lot of this stuff at home, and then when we're ready, we just record and put something out. And that's how we're looking at it going forward. But it's, that's the other thing. We always feel like we need to write a record. And in today's world, you could put one song out and and just promote that, or so we're still adapting to that a little bit. We do everything in LPs, with like the order of the tracks matter and all that stuff. And if you look at the stats on iTunes or Spotify, like it doesn't matter. So
it is true, and I think it just speaks to the nature of music currently, where I always make jokes about it, but it certainly is true. And I think with like older bands, I would argue even more so, because especially if you've been out of it for a while, it's kind of like almost a shock to the system. But I feel like with like people who are new bands that are releasing stuff, they're always like, man, I got to get like the next single out. 3 months from now we have the other single coming out, the other single, and then we're like, okay, well, we have one more secret song that we'll put on like an EP or something like that. There's plenty of creative ways, I'm sure, to release songs and release music. And, you have people that, are long-standing touring bands that have been doing it for a long time and just continue to do full albums, and that's awesome. And then you have
Right.
people that are literally in their room recording an album or like a song or something like that. And I think that that's so wild to me
Right.
as an interviewer, because I feel like there is a certain level of like respect that I have for you guys as artists to listen to the whole thing. I'm very much an LP person where I want to listen to the album front to back, how it's envisioned, how people kind of do it. But then I'll ask someone like a younger coworker of mine, and they're just like, "Oh yeah, I'm just trying to listen to the newest single or something like that." And it just kind of like I get a
Right.
little triggered about it. But then at the same point, I'm like, okay, well, I also grew up in that era of enjoying an album from front to back. So
Right.
I will certainly give Fairhaven the front to back listen. I'll be doing the live like album review. So guys, come hang out if you
Okay.
want to see that. Because I feel like I need to do this album with justice, certainly, because I really enjoyed Dearly Beloved. And I feel like if I already like that one, there's probably a pretty good chance I'm gonna love the rest of the album. Um, but the next question I have for you, Pete, is, and I'm sure this is maybe more of a long-winded answer, certainly, but I'm curious on how you're going to talk about it. But how did Silent Drive originally start out? It looks like on the Wikipedia page, you're a formation of a couple different bands. I wanted to make sure I had the correct information, so that's why I have it up here. But
Yeah.
In Cartridge, Funeral, Bane, Desai, I'm pretty sure if that's how I pronunciate it, and Drowning Man.
Yep.
Is that
Yep.
correct? Okay, cool.
Yep.
So how did you guys all kind of formulate together? Because I imagine there's a story behind that, certainly.
Yeah. So yeah, it's a little bit of a long story, but
It's all good.
yeah. So Zach, the singer, and I were in Bane together. We both joined in like 1998, 99. So we were doing that a lot. Bane
Mhm.
was, and then we had our little side project, and that was mostly from with kids from Worcester, which is Nick, um, Van Summer, and then our good friend Steve Neal, and our friend who actually was doing merch for Bane, Mike Bischoff. So we started a side project called In Cartridge Funeral. Nick, the guitar player, was in Desai, so it was like a bunch of Worcester sort of metally bands, and
Okay.
we decided we wanted to play a little bit more metal focused, but like rock influence. Um, and Zach could sing a little bit, so he was doing sing parts, and then the other singer Mike was doing the screen parts. So we recorded one LP as In Cartridge Funeral, and so that's like mostly Silent Drive in a different form. And then actually on Bane tour, we were on tour with Hatebreed and Poison the Well. Um,
What a
and
lineup.
our drummer Steve Neal was in a car accident, and he died.
Oh,
So that band sort of ended. And then when we got home, we just felt like we needed an outlet to like, sort of deal with this crisis.
sure. Yeah.
And so Nick, the guitar player, and Zach and I, and our actually the drummer for Bane at the time started a band called Silent Drive, and that was specifically to sort of as a release to sort of let out some of the emotions that we were feeling about losing our friend Steve. So and the name Silent Drive comes from being on tour, and we were in Oklahoma City, and getting the news that he had died in the car accident, and we canceled the rest of the tour and drove home to be with his family and
Sure.
friends, and so the name Silent Drive comes from driving home from Oklahoma City, and basically no one really talking, just being quiet, just like reflecting on everything that was
Hmm.
happening. So that's the history of that. Nick Brannigan, who was playing drums, who was the drummer of Bane, eventually decided to leave, and then we got Dave Joyle from Drowning Man to come and try out for. We actually did a tryout with him, and he like knew all the songs like like instantly.
Oh
So
wow.
and he joined, and I was like, we were going into this. We had already booked studio time, and we were flying to Colorado to record, and so he sort of jumped, headfirst into it, and he did the actual LP recording on Dave. So that's sort of the origin story of the band, and that the Love Is Worth It record is just an ode to Steve, and basically all the lyrics are him. And at the same time, Nick, the guitar player, Nick Van Summer, his dad passed away from cancer, like right around the same time. So it was like a really emotional time, and that we just sort of tried to capture that emotion on that
Mhm.
record. And I think we were pretty successful. We've heard from a lot of people that it helps them in those situations. So, and maybe that's why it took us 18 more years to put out another record, because it was so like a labor of love, and sort of
Sure. Yeah.
a therapy session, really, that got us through that sort of hard time. So the second record, actually, we lost another friend to cancer, so it was another. It's sort of we're an emotional sort of band, and it feels like sometimes those tragedies are the spark that we need.
Yeah. Sure.
I think that is sort of true here, when as we as we write stuff around these sort of tragedies. So
Yeah, no, and I feel like there was, to me, you remind me of like just the traditional like post hardcore band. Like if I think of post hardcore, the genre collectively, like listening to Dearly Beloved and some of the other songs that I listened to off the album, I was like, this is like peak, like what I love to listen to already, and it kind of almost it borderline floored me a little bit because I felt like I was missing out on this band for such a period of what I enjoy, and some of the bands that I personally love, I feel like have a strong influence from what you guys do. So to me, it was like this was a no brainer to obviously have Silent Drive on and you as well, because I feel like for myself, this is like this is roots to me. So I appreciate it. And
yeah,
then in regards to the tragedies, I mean, obviously, sorry for your guys' losses. Certainly, I know. I mean, imagine that it's happened already, and you guys have gone through that period of healing. Certainly, um, but I feel kind of, I would definitely feel that sort of connection and I imagine a lot of people would feel that sort of connection to any sort of album if it's relating to someone who is close to you, someone someone who's important to you and that has passed away. And so I feel like for myself, again, that's an album I'll probably have to go back and listen to, not much longer after we're probably finished talking, Pete. But I appreciate the like emotional significance, and I think it kind of bites at the core of why I love this type of music. I think it's very direct. I think there's something about it that a lot of people can relate to, and I think the emotional like ness of whether it's like singing or like screaming, I think there's just something very cathartic about it. And I feel like you guys encapsulate that sort of like raw energy that that is known for, I would argue, in a lot of post-hardcore musicians. So I got to give you guys the proper salutes, because certainly I feel like a lot of the bands that I personally grew up listening to probably would have been a band if they
yeah,
weren't influenced by other people. So which is awesome, because I feel like it connects me more with why I love this genre of music. But um moving on to the next topic, Pete, Fairhaven is out, which I'm sure you guys are very stoked on. Um, but in regards to the album collectively, For people who may have not have heard of Silent Drive, much like myself, is there any song in particular that you would recommend to a new listener? And then the follow up to that, gotta ask, what is your personal favorite off the album? I know it's like picking a favorite child, certainly, but I imagine you have some sort of favorite, or at least leaning towards one.
Yeah. Um, as far as like the song for someone new to listen to, I think on Fairhaven, I'd probably go with God versus I, which is at
Okay.
the sort of close to the end of the record. It's a longer song, um, longer as in I think it's 5 minutes. It's not like a 12-minute like huge ballad.
Yeah.
Um, but I think it just has. I think what Silent Drive is mostly known for is like trying to do a lot of different things in one song and try to make it feel seamless.
Sure.
So that song starts off with like a really sort of heavy, sort of post-hardcore riff that just sort of like grooves, and then it gets it breaks down a little bit, gets a little chaotic, and then it goes into a really heavy part, and then it sort of has this sort of sad but triumphant ending, and then there's even a guitar solo in it. So
Oh,
I
all
think
right.
that's a good sort of roadmap for the rest of the record.
Okay, fair enough.
At least what we try to do. And it didn't get it was on the short list for the videos, doing a video, but we're a little scared it was too long for a video. I don't think it's that long, but uh, we are still talking about maybe doing a video, even though the record's been out for a couple months now. So
It's all right. Can still
that
do
might
it.
still happen. Yeah. Um, and then my favorite song on the record, and it's like 100% because it's really fun to play and challenging to play, is Abandoned Ship.
Oh,
Uh,
okay.
it's like the fifth song or something, fourth or fifth. And it's sort of like this swing beat, and it's I forget the timing. It's a weird timing, but
Ooh, all right.
it's just fun as a player to play. Nick, the guitar player, is just like he's a beast. Like when it comes to, like intricate and like complicated stuff. So
Oh
there's like
yeah.
tap tapping and stuff on that song, and I just love playing that song, and the drums are so cool, and so that one's a really fun one to play. So I think that's going to be my personal pick. But I
Ooh.
do listen to God versus I a lot, and I listen to the other video song. Dearly Beloved is cool, but that's a really old song for us. So I'm like over that one. That was
Wow. All right.
2007. Um, but the other song, the video song, is called I'm blanking on it.
I'm gonna pull it up.
Prescription
Just
for Death.
it is Prescription for Death.
Yeah, yeah, I love that song. I think the video came out really cool. Kudos to our director Jay Zuko. He's
Woo.
awesome. He actually directed both videos. We shot both videos the same day, so I also
Oh,
don't mind doing that.
oh man, that must have been rough.
Yeah, well, it was like because Zach, our singer, does a lot of like touring stuff with other bands. Not like he's not playing, but
Okay.
he's tour managing and driving and guitar teching. So just the way the schedule's going to work out, like if we didn't do both videos this one day, then he would leave for tour for like 4 months, and we wouldn't be able to do anything until after the record was out. So it was like, okay, we got to do 2 videos. We have one day to do it, and we're just going to get it done. So we
Massive respect.
yeah.
Yeah. That I feel like as a person who has been on a music video set, like I can't even imagine doing 2 music videos both back to back in one day. I feel like that is a very tall task. I feel like you guys did a great job with both videos. I want to specifically speak on Dearly Beloved because that was the one that I watched initially. But I'm very excited to really actually delve in and listen to it because reading some of the comments on Dearly Beloved, people were like, been waiting like 17 years for this, and this has been like the best record of this year. And so like, and I've had a few other people that have recommended it on my like either Facebook feed or like Instagram, and I'm like, I have to check it out because I feel like if anything, it's gonna further my love for post-hardcore as a genre. So very excited. But
Yeah.
um
The fun fact about those videos is they're shot actually in the same building, like one room over from each other, and they have
wow.
totally different look. And that's why we picked that building, is because it has a bunch of different rooms with different styles. So, um, yeah, we brought like in the Dearly Beloved video, we were all in like suits, and then
Yeah.
we shot that in two different rooms, and then we had to move all the equipment to the other room, down a flight of stairs, and then set that up, and then do it. And we
Oh,
only had, we had to be out of there by like 7 o'clock, so it was like a, we had towels to dry ourselves off because we're all sweating from moving all this stuff.
I'm sure. Oh my God.
But it was cool, and we got it done. So
Yes, you did, certainly. And you guys can watch them. I'll leave links in the description to go check them out. Please, Pete and Silent Drive put a lot of work into those videos. So I feel like, you guys gotta show it the love. But the next question, Pete, who originally got you started out on playing bass? Who was like some of your influences growing up and being influenced by other bass players? And I guess more currently, who influences your style as well?
right. Um, so I grew up listening to heavy music. My neighborhood kids and I, like all my close friends from the neighborhood, were into MTV and Headbangers Ball. So I grew up listening to Pantera and Faith No More and Metallica and Megadeth and all those bands. And then in high school, I found the sort of the hardcore punk rock side of it, with Inside Out and uh, Converge.
Ooh, yeah.
You know, those bands sort of opened my eyes to like, oh, like here's this like less polished, more emotional version of metal,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and it sort of caught my attention. But I definitely came from that metal side, and not like the punk side, the Black Flag sort of Descendant side. I do like that stuff, but I don't listen to it as much. But
Fair enough.
so my biggest influences on playing bass were like Billy Gould from Faith No More. I love Pearl Jam. I love Nirvana. I love that stuff. I grew up on that stuff. As far as like bass players specifically, I'd have to say Billy from Faith No More is probably number one. And then today, um, I don't know. I don't listen to music. I don't listen to a lot of music that sounds like Silent Drive.
Fair
Uh,
enough.
if I do, it like I have been actually listening to heavier music lately, just because we're talking about trying to start the next record.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah, so I'm just trying to think of. I just want to hear stuff because I need like influence. You know what I mean? I
Yeah,
need
sure.
something to chew on and spit it out after I've had my sort of say of it. I've been listening to a lot of Poison the Well stuff.
Ooh, yeah.
I'm a huge Refused fan.
Ooh, nice. Yeah.
Um, those guys. The Shape of Punk to Come record is um, probably the best sounding bass, like recording. Maybe the best sounding hardcore record ever recorded. I would
Ooh,
argue.
all right. All right.
So, and like the bass tones and what they play there is really really fascinating to me. And then another big influence on me somewhat in Sound Drive, and definitely in when I was playing in Bane was Saves the Day.
Oh, yes.
Evan from Saves the Day on Stay What You Are. The bass playing on that is really excellent. So that, I mean, these records are old now, like really old still. So as far as like new stuff, I don't really listen to a lot of new heavier stuff. I don't think who I do listen to. I mean, Turnstile's pretty cool.
Yeah,
Uh,
they're great. Yeah.
so, um, but they have their only totally unique own sound, and
Yeah.
I would never. I think that's what's so fascinating to me is that like I would never think to play what they play. So that's why it like draws my attention. Like, oh, that's cool. I'm a huge Sunny Day Real Estate fan, so
Yeah.
um, I don't know. There's some influences for you.
No, and that's I think it's interesting because like for myself, like as someone who consumes way more music than I probably should, and obviously for reasons, doing this, I find it funny that people or what you were saying in regards to just being like, okay, I'm just here playing bass. There obviously I have some older school influences that influence my sound, and then people that I kind of grew up along, whether it be in Bane or Silent Drive, you're like, okay, these are people that I've known, like they're great bass players. Like, let me see if I can try to pull influence from them as well. I don't always feel like it's you have to have like current influences, but I was it kind of it was an interesting concept in the fact that like I feel like you just like very much in my way of like this is what I listen to, this is what I love, and I gotta appreciate your honesty of keeping to the things that you enjoy. I feel like it would be easy to just say like, yeah, I'm listening to this band or that band just for the sake of saying that you need to, but you
Well, I
know,
did think of one new one actually. So just to like twist what you just said. So Polyphia is
oh
I recently discovered them. I saw one of those like person's reaction
yeah.
to the Goat, the GOAT song, and I was like, "Holy cat, that song's really cool." That bass player is super cool. Um, I aspire to be to play like him, but he plays a 5 string,
Yes,
which
he does.
I'm like scared to dabble in. I was just like four strings is enough, like for me to handle. I don't need another one. So um, I'm forgetting. Oh, Clay is his name.
Clay is his name, you're correct. Yeah.
Yeah, Tim and the other guy, and the drummer. I mean, I'm a huge fan of like sick drummers, and they have their drummer is so sick. And then the other one, and I only discovered this band. They're an Australian band. They're called Carnival.
Oh, yes, Carnival, they're great, yeah.
And I was like, I had no idea who they were, and then I bought this plugin for Logic, and it was like, it had all these presets in it, and it was like they had this John, I forget his name now, but he had some awesome sounds, and I was like, who is this guy? It sounds really cool. And I looked him up, and he was in this Carnival band, and I was like, oh, they're kind of a heavy sort of Tool.
Yes, yeah.
And there's another old influence, Tool, but definitely Tool's sound was an influence on me. So there's a couple new ones, but I mean, I'm always looking for stuff. I put on like metal playlists on like Apple Music and all this stuff, and like I like metal, but I don't. I'm not totally in love with all the super technical stuff. I can listen to it and I can hang with it, but
Sure, sure.
I need something a little bit more than that. So
Fair
I'll
enough.
just like skip through this playlist. I'm like, like it's cool, but it's like doesn't hit me. And I haven't been able to really find something that hit me lately, except for Polyphia and Carnival and this great band from New Jersey called Can't Swim, which isn't even
Oh,
about
yes.
rock, like a post-hardcore band. For some reason, those three bands have hit me recently. Brand new. It's so sick. I think they're canceled now. I'm pretty sure. And it makes me sad because that the devil is raging inside me, that record or whatever it's called.
Yes, I think you're correct. Yeah.
Um, that record is so crazily creative, and it's really great. But too bad they're they're no more.
I will say, yeah, Carnival, I'll give them a shout out. It's actually, I believe their bass player is named John Stockman. I'm pretty sure.
John Stockman, yes,
Pretty
yeah.
sure. So, guys, you
And
can
it's
roast me in the comments if I'm wrong.
It starts with a K, Karin.
Yes, it's Carnival is spelled Karnivol, and I have it pulled up just in case I screwed it up. So there you go, guys. Go check them out. But I do like, the thing that shocked me the most a little bit was the Polyphia thing, because I feel like for me, like that's well in my wheelhouse. Like I've listened to Polyphia for a long time. And as being in like the post-hardcore scene for a bit, I feel like that was I wouldn't say it was the last thing I was thinking about that you would say, but it does surprise me that that would be on your list of things to listen to. So I would definitely, they're great. I think their whole discography is really tight as well. Like I think with each, I'm very excited for the new album. I think that's going to be awesome. And they have some really awesome features coming up on that album too. So I think I'm very excited to give that one a listen, certainly. But yeah, that wouldn't surprise me. So I'm glad you threw me for a loop there, Peter. So
I do love instrumental stuff, so I like them a lot, and I like creativity. I like people that are doing different things, and like I said, I like people with sick, like really polyrhythmic, jazzy drumming.
oh, okay.
Those Polyphia and Carnival sort of have that. One other band I just thought of, I don't think it's a band, I think it's a person, but Cloud Kicker.
Yes, Cloud Kicker is great. Yes.
Yeah, some really interesting, like I love the super layered stuff that drones on and stuff. I don't know, it's cool. So
I will give you a recommendation. They're kind of in the same lane as Polyphia, a little bit less like top 40s, like hip hop trap beat sort of music. They are called Intervals. I don't know if you've heard of them or not. They might show up on the recommendation. If you listen to Polyphia, they might show up as like a same artist, like familiar artist. But they're great, and they're a little bit more. I'm trying to how to antiquate it. I guess they're more like rock, like progressive rock a little bit more. They do have a little bit of pop influence, but I would argue they're more in that progressive like rock category. But they're instrumental too, and they're
awesome.
love them. They're great.
I'll
So
check them out right after this interview.
there we go. Awesome. Guys,
always looking for new stuff.
There we go. Well, I'll make sure to email some over to you, Pete, when I have them. The next question I have for you, Pete, this is probably going to be a very strange question, and I don't even know if maybe you have an answer for it, but if Silent Drive was to do a cover song, do you have any in mind that you guys would be interested in doing a cover of?
We actually were talking about this because now we're like trying to modernize our thinking. We're like, well, what should we put out next? Can we put out a cover? And just to keep sort of the stream flowing. So we did talk about this last week. I'm trying to decide if I want to tell you or not. But I can tell you something that not to do. Well, let me bring up the list.
Has there been discourse in which song you guys are going to choose? That's the real question, I feel.
Yeah, of course. Because we all love each other, and we can totally say, you're stupid. Forget it. I'm just trying to see. I'm just looking through my text messages real quick. Well, I'll just say that we talked about Bjork. We talked about some Depeche Mode.
Oh, wow! All right.
We talked about, what was the one that Nick wanted me? He couldn't believe thought it was dumb, but I forget now. Oh, Deep Purple.
What? Oh man. Oh,
Um, and then so we talked about um, what's his name? I wanted to do a Sunny Day cover,
that would be great. Oh
but
yeah.
Nick was like, "That's too close. Like we're too close to that. It's not a surprise." You know what I mean? Like it's.
I
I
get it.
agree with him. And then I wanted to do. I always forget his name. He's a singer songwriter. He's long dead now. Not Nick Drake, but the other guy. That was sort of singer songwriter. I'm just blanking on his name. He's like
It's all
super
right.
famous.
If you remember, you'll just email it to me and then I
Yeah,
will
yeah,
then throw it up here on the screen for
yeah,
everybody to know what song we're talking about or artist.
yeah.
Oh
Um,
man. Oh.
and we're sort of talking about doing a Portishead cover.
Oh wow.
That's where we're leaning right now. Nothing has been determined other than like we're all sort of interested in that. So,
There we go.
but
I was a little unsure because I
I
was
won't
like,
tell you what song. So
that's fair. That's fair. That I like for things to remain a little bit of a mystery, but I was a little surprised because I feel like, cover song, if you get to a certain echelon of music, you're like, I don't know if I want to do covers, And I know I've had people on that have had very strong opinions for covers and have had very strong opinions against covers. So I kind of wanted to know where the barometer was at on
well, we're definitely not going to
that.
do like a Christmas album or anything like that.
Fair enough.
Um,
Respect.
but we definitely talked about doing something that would that people wouldn't expect, A, and then B, that we could make our own and still, do service to the original.
Sure. Yeah.
So it would be, with a four-piece, band and a guitar and bass and heavy, and drums and a singer. So like, how can you convert a Bjork song to that or whatever?
Yeah.
So that's always in the discussion. Like, is it far enough from Silent Drive, but also close enough to Silent Drive, kind of a thing.
I feel you. You got to find that right, like, medium point where it's like, if it's too left field, it's like, is it really gonna work? But if it's too close to Silent Drive, is it gonna be too familiar? Right.
Right.
I got you. You got to find that like sticking point on that. Man, I wouldn't even know where to begin on if I could even offer up a suggestion because I feel like that'd be
Well, listen to the
difficult.
record first, and then email me.
Okay, you got it. I'll have to I'll be listening to the record live. People can come hang out and listen to it with me as well.
Okay.
But if you guys happen to have any suggestions for Silent Drive, drop them in the comments. I cannot confirm or guarantee they will end up on that list, but they're at least out there on the internet for them to see. So I'm just gonna point that
So
out.
Bane did a Bjork cover. In Carter's Funeral did a Faith No More cover. And a Police Academy theme song
What?
cover.
Oh my god, that's great. I love
But I
that.
don't even know if that's on streaming services because it came out on a smaller label. So
It's a remain a mystery.
I think it is on some of them. I forget. I think we had to do some Death Wish and they were going to put it on for us. And then Bane also did a Sick of It All cover.
Oh,
I
there
feel
you
like
go.
we did a Lifetime cover. Those are sort of in the genre though. So we'll throw a cover in there every once in a while.
I respect that. I feel like I always say this and I'll continue to die on this hill, but I feel like if I'm a band and I want other people to know about my music, the best way, at least from my perspective, being a fan and being out in the crowd and enjoying a band play, I love when a band can make like a cover song their own, like, and it almost transcends the original song to the point where I'm like, okay, they did such a great job of like honing in what they do, but also engaging the crowd because it's a cover song and people know that cover song.
Right.
Or maybe not. I don't know. But I feel like if I know what it is, then it's great, you know?
Right. Yeah, I agree with that. That's like a low barrier to entry, like
Yeah.
sort of to play to get people sucked in to play a song they know, but in a different way. It's like an easy way to get their foot in the door. I agree with that.
Yeah. And then you put your little flavor in there and it's great. That's what I think that's what makes me enjoy bands if they're able to like. I also feel like it's a good time. It's like someone else's song you get to play. Like I feel like that's a cool thing, as a semi musician myself. I mean, I obviously can't see it, but I have my guitars and I picked up a bass over quarantine as well. So getting my bass chops going. I'll have to learn some old Bane stuff and some so I'll have to listen real hard for some Silent Drive bass, some
I
great
have a
bass
guitar
music.
over here, but I am so bad at guitar. It's ridiculous. I'm an
I'm
okay.
I'm passable. I feel like at least on bass, but I feel like if anything, I could definitely get better at playing bass. Certainly, guitar. I feel like there's always a chance for me to get better at playing guitar, but I feel like I'm like okay, not great, not terrible. So, but not like I'm not Steve Vai. So I'll take that. Uh, the next question I have for you, Pete, is another fun one. What is your favorite food to eat?
Pizza. That's easy. Absolutely. 100% is a nice pizza.
I feel
Um,
that.
yeah, I'm vegetarian. My wife's vegan. She always wants me to go vegan. And from the start, I've always said, yeah, as soon as I figure out a good substitute for cheese, then I'll think about it. But they have not figured it out yet. So, like the vegan cheese is just not up to par yet. So
I feel
until they do that, I
if they
mean,
get that, then converted.
yeah, yeah, that's all I need. That's all. I'm good after that. They figured everything else out. Actually, they have not. They haven't
Oh
figured
yeah, I
out.
was gonna say. I feel like they've.
They have not figured out tuna fish, and they have not figured out pizza cheese or any sort of sliced cheese. Now, spreadable cheese, they have some pretty good ones, but
Okay.
everything else is like subpar. The burgers these days are amazing. All like the Beyond and the Impossible stuff is like unbelievable. Can't believe we're here at that moment after being vegetarian since I was like 17. So
Oof.
we've come a long way.
I was
So
gonna say that's some true grit. I feel like as someone who tries to incorporate some sort of like vegan or vegetarian meal into their diet per week, I can say with such certainty that it can be difficult, but I could only imagine how much more difficult it would be
oh
if
my god,
if I was 17 in like the early 90s, that would hurt, I feel.
yeah, it was a different world back then. So this is great. We're living the high life now. So
Yeah, you're soaring. Pete's doing great here. So guys, vegan choices. I feel like the more artists I have on, the more like cognitive thought about like trying to like incorporate some more vegan meals into my diet. So guys, if you have a good vegan meal, let me know in the comments or DM me because I'll check it out and try to make it for it. Make it
all you can do
not
is
on here.
do
I'll just
your
make it
best.
for me.
Just do your best. That's all. Just
Okay.
be who you want to be. That's all. That's all it is.
I feel like
I'm,
it's important,
I vegetarian works for me. Vegan works for my wife. But whatever. I'm open.
Tomato, tomato. Yeah, I
Right,
got you.
right.
The next question I have for you, Pete, if you guys were to pick somebody to collaborate with a guest feature on an up and coming Silent Drive record, do you have any people in mind you'd like to work with?
Wow, that's a good question.
Thank you.
I don't know. Turnstile is so hot right now, doing such cool stuff. Um, and Zach actually does tour stuff with them, so he's
What? That's so
driving them right
cool.
now. So he's good friends with them. It might be them. I mean, obviously the big ones, Faith No More is now back, so I wouldn't mind doing Faith No More thing or a Deftones thing or
Oh,
um, even Coheed. Those guys are cool. I'm trying to think, like, as far as like collaborating, as in, like those are like, that would be cool tourist situations. But as
Sure. Yeah.
far as like collaborating with somebody and doing some like creative thing, let me think. Um, Trying to think who's doing really cool stuff right now. Not even in music, like in visual arts, or you know,
Ooh, okay. Yeah, I like that spin on it. Okay.
like film or something like that.
Sure. Yeah.
My son's been way into like anime lately, so it'd be really cool to like, what if we did a theme song for an anime? That would be,
Ooh, that'd be kind of nice. I like that. As a
season
resident
three
anime stan
Slayer,
here.
season three Demon Slayer theme song. I'd be way into that.
That would be
That would be
that would
sick.
be very cool. I would How can we make this happen? Like, I would
Yeah.
love to see this happen.
Who do we write? Yeah.
Man, that'd be great.
Yeah.
Sign me
When's
up.
that?
I'll do it. I'll
Yeah.
petition. I'll put my
All
my
right.
flag post out and do it, you know?
That would be fun. I don't know. Well, we're super lucky. We've been around so long. We know a lot of. We're like fortunate enough to be friends with a lot of people that are now like really big, like Mastodon guys and all those people that, like, when the scene was smaller and like when someone sold 10,000 records, it'd be like, well, they're just doing so good, and now it's like everything's so big.
Yeah.
So there's a ton of artists that we are inspired by, and would love to work with. Um, Mostly from Massachusetts. No, I'll work with anybody, but it's like the guys that we grew up with.
You're
It's
just a little bit, just a little bit biased in that aspect of like, listen, it's gotta be a massive. I respect that, as a
like
as
we have a lot of good choices. The Kill Switch Engage
I was gonna
guys,
say, yeah.
the Shadows Fall, Overcast guys. I don't know, like Fiddlehead
Oh,
stuff. All like, we're super lucky that we have like so many Converge, even, like
yeah.
all those guys. So um I would love to do a Silent Drive Cave in tour personally, but I think that'd be cool. But
Well,
anyway,
if there was anything I'd have to petition for, Pete, as we're gonna go back to it, the Demon Slayer
I,
OST,
I think that's a good idea.
I think that's the pick. I mean, like, as a resident anime fan, I feel like I would be so stoked on that. So, guys, I don't know who we have to message, but
Yeah.
let's do it.
Who do we know?
Who do you
Who
know? Who do you know that could get us in contact and do this?
you will write the sweetest 20-second Demon
Ri-
Slayer intro song ever.
I'd be about it. Let's go, guys. But I also, because you did mention it, Deftones would also be really cool as well. Shane Moreno is just fantastic, and funnily enough, I think he is, or not. I think I know for a fact, he is doing a feature on the Polyphia album. So I think that's really
Oh,
cool.
really? Oh,
I'm
that's cool.
very excited about that.
Yeah.
So keep your eyes peeled. But if I had a choice, it'd be the two. Like if I actually had to pick an actual artist, Deftones would be great. I feel like that one's a little bit of more of a biased choice because I like Deftones a lot as well. But the Demon Slayer one is just like maybe slightly above, So
If that
guys,
happened, my son would flip his lid. Like he's
I'll
so.
I feel like I would be with your son and flipping the lid as well. So it would be very cool.
Yeah.
The next question I have for you, Pete. If you guys were to compile a dream tour lineup, including Silent Drive, is there any tour in mind that you just love to be a part of?
Well, we just said a bunch. Let's do a 3 or 4 band package here.
Okay.
I mean, Faith No More is on that. That's
Oh,
there's
yeah. All right.
still there's still a favorite, and I think Silent Drive would do well with them.
I agree. Yeah.
Um, all right, so it's a 4 band bill. Keeps
Okay.
it short. you get two openings. Well, I think Silent Drive opens maybe, but I would do a Faith No More Mastodon Deftones tour. That would
Ooh.
be sick, and we would open, and we would be like the least heavy band. I guess Faith No More is probably not as heavy, but that would be pretty sweet. I don't know. Maybe we'll do that Pantera tour they're doing with Zach Wild on guitar or
Ooh.
whatever.
All right. I respect that. I feel
I
like
don't know. See, I don't know if I want to be the. I want to be the heavier band on the bill, and not the like lighter band. I think that's it's a better to be heavier than the lightest band on the bill. So maybe scratch that Mastodon Deftones thing, or we just skew our songs to the heavier ones. Maybe.
I respect that move. I feel like that was very similar to a tour I just saw. It was Stick to Your Guns, Kublai Khan, Belmont, and Foreign Hands. And like Belmont is like this like pop punk like band that they put in third slot.
Right.
And they have heavy songs, like don't get me wrong, they're certainly like a heavier-ish like pop punk band, but I feel like when I saw that tour, I was like, there's going to be some people that went for Belmont, but I would say a large majority went for like the other three heavy bands.
Right.
So I feel like I think that's a tough sell if you're like in the crowd and you don't know this band. Like certainly I feel like people are a little bit more open in terms of, music now, I'd argue. But that was a rough thing to see
Yeah.
on a package, certainly.
Yeah, it's definitely hard when you're the odd man out a little bit. You have to do those tours sometimes, but just because they make sense. Because how else are you going to get in front of those people that are sort of on the fence? They like the heavy, heaviness, like
Sure, yeah.
but they also like Stick to Guns because it has like those soaring like singing vocal parts. So
Yeah.
you're sort of appealing to those people that like the singing parts and don't love the heavy stuff as much. So, but it's definitely that's definitely the harder position to be in.
Oh, certainly, yeah.
Versus like if I don't know that Belmont band, but if they played with Newfound Glory, which is isn't that heavy, they they were a slightly heavier band. That's probably more comforting as a member of the band. Anyway.
I would argue that as well. So, but guys, go check out Belmont. They're great too. But I also love all the other bands on that package too. But the next question I have for you, Pete, since you've been in the scene for quite a long time, you've seen, I'm sure, tons and tons and tons of shows. But in your opinion, who puts on a great live performance?
I mean, Hatebreed is like insane. They've always done it. I learned when we did that tour with them. I learned so much just about putting on a live show.
Yeah.
A lot, like tons of things. Like, how do they sound so heavy? Well, it has a lot to do with their bass tone and like the way that they set their settings live, and so I came away from that tour, like with setting my rig differently, and B, like understanding how because that was like bigger stages,
Sure, yeah.
how do you perform on a bigger stage when you can't rely on stage dives or whatever if there's a barrier or whatever. So I always think of them when I think of like great live shows. I'm trying to think of some of the best shows I've ever been to, and I mean Pantera when I was in high school was pretty amazing, and then I saw Bjork
Ooh,
in
okay.
Worcester at the Palladium, which is a bigger venue, but
Yeah,
it's like
yeah.
not that big. It's like 2,000 people. And this was right after Homogenic came out, and she had like a full orchestra.
Oh wow, that's awesome.
We were just singing in front of it, and my wife and I were there, and we had like a booth, and we just sat there, and it was like it was crazy. It was just like crazy. I saw Foo Fighters like not long after that in that same venue, 2,000 person venue, um, and that was pretty darn good. So there was Dave Grohl and Taylor. I wanted to say Tyler. Taylor did like a drum off in the middle of the.
Oh
They
what? Oh,
they had two drum sets and they like battled each other. It was pretty awesome. And again,
that-
this is not like those guys play like Wembley Stadium now.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
This was at the 2000 seat building. So those were pretty good shows. I mean, you're right. I mean, I've been to a lot of shows. Bane played so much.
Oh, I'm sure.
Um, we would, I would go to 150 shows a year. For
My
10
God.
years. For like 10 years, I did that. So,
Whew. Respect.
yeah, yeah. There's so many.
Yeah, and I feel like you get I feel like you get more of an appreciation for like I do appreciate your comment on the hate breed and like going on tour with them and changing up your rig because I think in a lot of cases like you think about I think about myself and doing YouTube and trying to evolve like what I do specifically. And
Right,
I appreciate that you had the forethought of being like, man, I really want to evolve my live sound. How am I going to try to do this? And then like learning from other people and, being able to, take all of that information and incorporate it into, your sound, not only with Bane, but also Silent Drive. And I think that that's really a cool takeaway because I feel like artists now, it's just like, okay, well, like we got to take our stuff off and like move it off the rig and we have to like get off at a certain time. And
right,
like, I think sometimes and I'm guilty of it certainly as well as like sometimes I'm just like, behind the phone, like trying to like, video the show because, doing media, you feel like you get that experience. And
right,
I do have some people say they're like, oh, well, do you feel like you miss out on the show experience because you're doing this, doing the whole like YouTube thing? And I was like, sometimes I do feel like that, but then like it's
right,
also nice because then I get to watch it later on and like at the comfort of my desk here and
right,
experience it firsthand again. Um, so
right.
I feel like there is kind of like a disconnect, but I appreciate what you were saying, Pete, about like evolving your rig. That's awesome.
Well, I think when you're on the other side and when you're seeing it as like, okay, this is like, and it's not really, I was going to say, this is a performance. So how do you make your performance better? And it's not really like a performance like we're acting like
Yeah.
a certain way. It's but there are things that make the audience enjoy it better. So we're going to try
Agreed.
to do those things. And there's things you can do to make it sound better live, which you wouldn't do. That was the big disconnect for me. That like I set, at first I always set my stuff the way I recorded it. So in the practice room, I had it set one way, and then we'd go record it, and it would match that, and then we'd go
Hmm.
play live, and it would match that. And then I realized that like, A, the different rooms are all different, and B, like recording has a totally different feel to it. So you have to like change your settings to sort of match what you're trying to do.
Sure. Yeah.
And at the same time, try to make sure it still sounds like you. So that's the tricky part, but it takes a little practice.
I feel like you got it nailed down certainly because like even with listening to some of the songs, more specifically Dearly Beloved, that was one song that I was like the bass tone. Like I'm not even a bass player myself, but that was something I noticed that like is very evident in the like mixing and mastering process that the bass has like um more of a focal point behind it. And I appreciate that as like as someone who does a lot of music reviews. I like the fact that there is some knowledge of spatial awareness in terms of like, okay, the guitars sound here, the bass sound like kind of sits, middle to low end, and then the drums, you got, the cymbals, and then the like lower end of like the bass kicks and stuff like that.
Right.
And I think that like I said, I want to give a shout out to whoever did the mix and mastering on this album, because it just that
Yeah.
song specifically was great. So I imagine the rest of the album is equally as good.
Jay Moss recorded us, and engineered and mixed it. He's from Defeater.
Nice. Yes.
He did the last main record too. So I think with Silent Dog, we're just very aware that we're a 4-piece. So it's
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
a guitar player, a bass player, and a drummer. So a lot of bands that are 5-piece have 2 guitars. So like it feels like, okay, guitars are here and then bass is just under them. And that may be the right place for it. For us, it's like, okay, we sort of need both to be present at the same time. So and then sit along with the drums and the vocals. So that's what we're always thinking about.
Well, it was a great job by Jay. He did fantastic. So salutes to you, Jay. Next question I have for you, Pete. If you were trapped on a desert island for the next month and there was one album you could bring with you to listen to, what album would it be?
What could I stand for a month? I could probably stand a lot. I like music. Will play something over and over again for a month and then not go back to it for 2 years. So a month is pretty easy for me.
Okay, fair enough.
Let's see what I was digging into that brand new catalog.
Oh, all right.
On drive the other night, and I was digging into it, and I was like, "Holy, it's so freaking good, so crazy." I don't even know how big those records were, or like, I know their Deja and Tendu record was like their super breakout album, and then the one that came after that came like a long time after that, a long time, like 3 or 4 years, not like drive long, like 18. But there's a huge difference between those records as far as like maturity.
Sure, yeah, I would
I
agree.
love both, but I think if you put me on a desert island right now, I'm like super into that. The God and Devil are raging inside me. Is that what it's called?
Ooh,
It has like,
yeah, I think you are correct. I would double check here just to make sure. Yeah,
yeah, I'm like,
pretty sure you're on point with that, Pete.
yeah, the Devil and God are raging inside me. So.
Yep, that is correct.
And yeah, if they're canceled or we're not supposed to talk about them, I'm sorry. When I heard that, I don't know all the details of it. So
I was talking with my roommate about this, or not specifically brand new, but I was just talking about like bands and having tumultuous things that happen in their career. And so, sometimes I think to myself, as much as I, am definitely not a fan of whatever they've done, certainly, I feel like you can't discount like the actual music they made. So I feel like, as much as maybe I don't agree with brand new what they did, certainly, or
right.
like, insert any other band that has had like a, not stellar history. But I think to myself, like, the albums itself, like they're all, they can have their music and they can be their own entity, and
Right.
and
Right.
have their enjoyment there. But separating the art from the artist, the people who
Right.
made it. So I don't know.
Right.
That's just my 2 cents, certainly.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I get it. Like if they're, I honestly I don't know the story that
Same as well. Yeah.
with them. I just heard from somebody that wasn't, it was not. There was really not savory things happening, and I think they 100% could be true. I think a lot of that stuff gets exploded on a little bit of truth, and it can take over really quickly, even though it might not, you know. And for all I know, it is 100% true, and maybe, but
Sure. Yeah.
and again, I don't even know what we're talking about here. I just know that got into trouble for some stuff. Um, so I think you're right. I struggle a little bit with it because you know they put this stuff out into the world and now it's mine, is how I see it. So those albums that came out have a certain meaning to me when they came out, and they bring me back to those times for me.
Sure.
I understand that maybe they have a different feeling for someone else, and maybe that feeling is bad, but for me, it's not. So I just have to do what's right for me right now. So, and for me, brand new, like, just inspires me to think about music differently. So that's why I've been listening to them.
That's completely valid, certainly.
Right. So,
I feel like like you said, it kind of gets, again, I'm not 100% sure, so I don't want to like speak on it and like misspeak at all. So, but I do agree with you in the aspect of there is a level of like understanding that you have to have about the situation, certainly. And I think we're both talking in happenstance because we clearly don't know what happened.
right.
So I feel like for the music itself, I can agree. Like, Dejan 2 is great. The Devil and God are raging inside of me. Like those were albums I listened to a lot. And so I feel like I can, very similarly to you, Pete, draw a lot of influence from that. But you know, also at the same time, it's music. I think that, those things that may have happened are happening to those individuals and not necessarily the music that's being made during that,
Right.
during that time period. So,
Right.
but we're going to shift gears here, Pete. I love asking this question. I figured I'd ask you because love the answers for these. Um, what do you want people to take away from Silent Drive as a band collectively? Whether it be with the new album Fairhaven, or just musically in general. What do you want people to understand or know about your band that um, maybe might give that extra push to go give you guys a listen? Certainly.
I don't know. Well, here's the thing. I 100% appreciate like all our fans and everything. We, we've been so lucky, we get to play. We played all over the world. We played in Europe. We played in Japan. I mean, I've got to fly to Japan on someone else's dime and play music and travel around in like little mini buses and, and eating weird sushi. Like that's pretty sweet. So I 100% appreciate that. But when we write the music, it's for me.
Sure.
It's just
Yeah.
me. So, but maybe I'm being hypocritical to what I just said. Is that like once we put it out there, it's for you. Like it's for you guys. So,
It's a twofold,
but at the same
two-sided
time, it's
sword.
for me. Built it, we constructed it in order to get something out that we needed to get out,
Fair enough. Yeah.
and just our way of dealing with like life, which includes love and includes heartbreak and death and everything in between. So this is just our interpretation uh, of using wooden stuff with metal on it and putting it into a computer and then sending it to other people. This is just our way of translating, basically. It's like Google Translate, but it's like
That's the
uh,
best way to describe any band. I want to argue is just listen. We took emotions. We Google translated it. This is the music magic. There you go.
right.
It's done.
So I'm not going to convert anybody, but that's the truth. You know, it's just some 40-year-olds in a basement trying to like deal with some shit.
I listen. I
That
respect.
you listening to Faith No More, Pantera, and hard. So So
I
think
appreciate the
about
honesty. I appreciate the honesty because I feel like sometimes like I appreciate people that give me the really eloquent like the really eloquent shit where they're just like, listen, this I've been in a hard time. This is me trying to like confront my demons and tell people like you can do it, and that's much love, much respect, I love that. But I also love when people are just like, listen, I just fucking make music because I enjoy it, and I'm doing it for me. And that I don't feel like you get asked for much more than that because like if you're putting your heart and soul into it, I feel like other people are going to know or feel those emotions or feel those things that you had felt during the recording process and making the music and so I think that that translates as well. So I appreciate the honesty, Pete, because I feel like sometimes people kind of beat around the bush, but I also appreciate when people are a little bit like real cutthroat about say like, listen, I don't make
yeah,
this shit for you, I make it for me.
yeah,
You want to buy it,
that's
cool. If not, I'm still gonna do it anyway, kind of a thing. And that's respect,
yeah. Well, like I said, we're like 40-year-old. We think it's cool that people like it, but we're just doing shit in our basement that
Just having fun.
we have all this expensive gear that we need to use and have justify it with our wives that we bought. So
I am not married, so I feel like I can't really resonate with that one, certainly. But I'm pretty sure if people watch this and you are married, I could almost imagine you would resonate with that one. But the last thing, Pete, to round out the interview, tell the people where they can find Silent Drive at on social media, the album, where they can purchase at. I did see vinyl, so I'm gonna have to go scoop one of those up. And anything else you want to guys talk about?
yeah, I'm trying to remember the Instagram. I think it's at Silent Drive Band. I should know it, but I'm trying to
Let's
look
take
it
a
up.
look. I will also look. Well,
Um, computer slow. I'm pretty
it is in fact Silent Drive Band. So you are
sure.
correct.
Yeah, okay. And then we have a Facebook page, and I think it's the same thing. Silent Drive Band. Um, and then everything, all the merch and everything is on Equal Vision on the Merch Now. I think it's just merchnow.com website. And I think that's where the vinyl is.
That is
There's,
correct. Yep.
I think there's some limited edition stuff that's sold out. And I think there's some regular stuff that's left over. Um,
I did
there's
see I did see that the two albums were like the first album that you guys put out.
yeah.
That was completely obliterated. So I knew I wasn't gonna be able to get that one. But the new
Is
album,
that in the second? There was a
I'm gonna
so
look.
what was with it? Is that I thought there was one that was like unclear that was still available,
Let's take a look. I'm
but
looking now.
I haven't checked in a long time.
Love is Worth It is and then the other one, I think this is awesome. This was Fairhaven. Oh, that's the screen printed one. That one sold out. And then Love is Worth It is completely gone. So
No.
Equal Vision.
Right.
Can you
Yeah.
put another one up? That'd be great. Thank you. I'd like to
Yeah.
own that one.
We'll do like a black one or something, just a normal one. We never released vinyl on Love is Worth It, so and that just came out last year. So that's sort of new.
That's
So
probably why.
put Love is Worth It on vinyl, and then release a new record like 4 months later, and then that comes out on vinyl. So
And that I gotta say is looking really cool. So I'm gonna have to add this to my vastly and ever growing album collection that I have. I cannot show it because it's over in the corner, and this side of the room is definitely not clean. So go pick up Silent Drive's newest record, Fairhaven. Also go follow them on social media. I'll leave all the links in the description to go give them a listen, go give them a follow. And if you can pick up the new record, do it, but like don't do it before I do because I'm gonna purchase it first, and I don't want you stealing the cool color variant that they have up on the site because I need it. So but then after that it's fair game. So you take whatever you want.
yeah.
but please go pick it up. Very excited to listen to the album. I'm gonna set up a stream time probably before this comes out to go give a listen to the new record. So I'll post it on social media. So if you don't happen to see it now, well, if you don't happen to see it during that time, you can watch it. It will be up on the channel. Fingers crossed. So keep your eyes peeled for that. And if you enjoyed this interview, share, like, and subscribe. It goes a long way. Also, it is all on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Podcasts now, because I got bullied into putting the audio versions up on streaming services so you guys can watch it. So, or give it a listen. So if you do that, please go give it a good rating on whatever streaming service you use. And huge thanks to Pete for coming on and dealing with the technical difficulties from earlier. I do appreciate it.
Yeah, sorry about that. No worries. Yeah, thanks for having me. Yeah, if people want to check it out, let us know what you think. Especially if you're new, we'd love to hear what you think. Some, like I said, some 40-year-olds making some heavy metal in their basement. So
We love it. So keep, obviously be looking forward to the up and coming, Silent Drive new record, but make sure to go check the links below to go give it a listen. But again, huge
we
thanks
have
to Pete.
we have a show. I think I can announce it. When does this come out?
This will come out here. I'll make sure to. Well, I'll definitely be cutting this portion out of when I'm trying to pull up my schedule here.
Sorry to make you do more editing than you need.
Oh, it's all right. I live for this, Pete. This will be going out on October the 24th.
Okay. So I think we can say this. Okay.
If not, you could email me. Let me know.
Yeah, we can just cut it out if we don't. So we're playing a show in New York City, July 13th, which is a Friday at St. Vides.
I think you are correct. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was just confirmed.
Oh, okay.
So if you're in the area, come check it out. I have no idea when tickets go on sale, but we'll announce that if you follow us on social media. I believe it's a fairly small venue, so
It is. Yeah. Same Vitas is tiny.
yeah, I think it's gonna. I think it might sell out quick. So get those tickets.
There we go. Well,
maybe no one cares about us in New York City. I don't know.
well, we'll certainly find out if this show sells out in minutes. I would like to say that the show will sell out in minutes, but again, I don't know what the following is certainly now, but I feel like, if anything, it's going to be a great show. I may have to take the trek from Pennsylvania to New York to go see the show. So guys, let me know. I probably will, but only me into going.
Well, there might be some other shows in the works too. So if you don't make it for that one, there's some in the spring that might happen. So.
Oh, all right. There we go. Awesome, guys. Well, again, go check out Silent Drive, links below. And again, huge thanks to Pete for coming on. It was such a pleasure.
Thanks, Brandon. Appreciate it.